Have you ever felt that quiet emptiness, that sense of something missing, even when everything in your life looks fine on paper? Maybe your relationship feels distant, or you've been single for a while and can't quite explain why your motivation, your energy, your joy seem to have faded. What if that deep ache isn't just sadness or stress, but the emotional and biological impact of a lack of intimacy? Can the absence of intimacy really cause depression? I'm the intimacy doctor. Real talk, real science, real intimacy. And today we're going to explore how our need for closeness isn't just romantic or sentimental. It's deeply wired into our emotional and physical health. So, let's start with something fundamental. As human beings, we are biologically designed for connection. From birth, touch, eye contact, and emotional attunement are literally how our brains learn to regulate emotions. When a baby is held, comforted, and mirrored by a caregiver, the brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. That chemical not only strengthens trust and safety, it lowers stress hormones like cortisol and helps develop a stable emotional core. Fast forward to adulthood, and that same need for emotional and physical closeness doesn't disappear. It just evolves. When we experience love, affection, or even consistent emotional presence from someone who truly sees us, oxytocin still flows, dopamine still rewards, serotonin still stabilizes mood. But when those moments of genuine connection are missing for long periods of time, whether because of isolation, emotional neglect, or a breakdown in intimacy within a relationship, the brain begins to register that absence like a form of deprivation. Not just emotional deprivation, but neurochemical deprivation. And that, over time, can mimic or even trigger symptoms that look and feel like depression. But here's where it gets really interesting. Studies in relationship psychology and neuroscience show that the pain of social rejection or loneliness activates the same regions in the brain that respond to physical pain. That's right, emotional disconnection literally hurts. So when someone says, "my heart hurts," it's not just a metaphor. The anterior cingulate cortex, the same area that processes physical pain, lights up when we feel emotionally excluded or unseen. This means that a lack of intimacy, whether emotional, physical, or even just relational, can quietly chip away at our sense of belonging and safety. And when our need for connection isn't met, we don't just feel lonely. We start to feel unworthy, invisible, or emotionally numb. So, can lack of intimacy cause depression? In many cases, yes, or at the very least, it can be a major contributing factor. But to understand how, we need to look at the layers of intimacy itself. Intimacy isn't just physical, it's emotional. Intimacy, the ability to share your inner world with someone who listens without judgment. It's intellectual intimacy, connecting through ideas, curiosity, and shared values. It's experiential intimacy, growing through shared experiences and memories. And it's physical intimacy, not only sexual touch, but comfort, closeness, and safe affection. When even one of these areas is chronically missing, we can start to feel disconnected not only from others, but from ourselves. Let's talk about the first major insight: emotional intimacy as emotional regulation. When you have someone who truly listens, who validates your feelings instead of fixing or dismissing them, your nervous system actually calms down. Emotional intimacy acts as co-regulation. It's a shared space where your emotional stress is processed safely. Without it, you might find yourself internalizing pain, overthinking, or emotionally shutting down. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that people who report low emotional closeness with partners or family members are significantly more likely to experience symptoms of depression and anxiety. It's not just about love, it's about emotional safety. The absence of it leaves us in a state of constant vigilance, where the body produces more cortisol and the mind becomes hyper-aware of threat, rejection, or failure. So if you're feeling low, one practical step isn't just therapy or medication, though those can be incredibly valuable, but rebuilding small moments of safe connection. That could mean opening up to a trusted friend, joining a support group, or even sharing more vulnerably in your current relationship. Intimacy isn't built overnight, but it begins with small doses of emotional truth. Now, the second insight: physical touch as emotional medicine. Physical affection, in any healthy and consensual form, releases oxytocin and serotonin. These are natural antidepressants your body makes for free, One fascinating study from the University of North Carolina found that couples who hugged for at least 20 seconds showed lower blood pressure and higher oxytocin levels immediately afterward. Another found that even simple non-sexual touch, a hand on the shoulder, a long embrace, or cuddling, can reduce the perception of pain and stress. But when physical intimacy disappears from a relationship, or when someone goes long periods, without being touched affectionately, their body begins to feel starved for that connection. And emotional starvation can easily spiral into emotional exhaustion. Some people start to withdraw further. Others seek quick dopamine hits from screens or distractions, anything to fill that silent void. This leads us to the third insight. Intimacy and self-worth are deeply linked. When intimacy is missing, we often start to interpret that absence as personal failure. Maybe I'm not attractive enough. Maybe I'm not lovable. Maybe I'm too much. These thoughts aren't facts. They're emotional interpretations built on unmet needs. But over time, they erode self-esteem and reinforce depressive thinking patterns. Relationship science tells us that we form our self-concept partly through how others respond to us. In emotionally distant or disconnected relationships, that mirror is missing. We don't get reflected back as seen, valued, or desired. That absence can lead to a subtle but powerful narrative of invisibility. So what can you do if you're there right now? If you feel unseen, untouched, or emotionally numb? Start by naming the need without shame. The need for intimacy is not weakness. It's biology. It's human. When you can say, I miss connection, or I want to feel close again, you reclaim the narrative from shame to authenticity. Ask yourself, what kind of intimacy do I crave most right now? Emotional, physical, intellectual, spiritual? Sometimes depression isn't the root. It's the symptom of being emotionally malnourished. And once you name the hunger, you can begin to feed it in healthy, intentional ways. Maybe that means having a real conversation with your partner, saying, I miss us. Maybe it means building self-intimacy, learning to listen to your own needs, journaling, or connecting with your body through mindfulness. Self-intimacy, after all, is the foundation of all other connection. When you are intimate with your own feelings, honest about your fears, kind to your vulnerabilities, you create the inner safety that attracts deeper connection with others. The fourth insight: intimacy, communication, and trust work as a system. Many couples lose intimacy, not because love disappears, but because communication breaks down. When we stop expressing emotional needs out of fear of rejection, resentment builds. Over time, emotional walls form, and the distance grows quietly. Healthy intimacy requires vulnerability, but vulnerability only thrives in trust. That's why trust is not just about fidelity, it's about emotional consistency. If your partner listens one day and dismisses you the next, your nervous system won't feel safe enough to open up. And without that emotional safety, intimacy can't survive. It's like trying to plant flowers in dry soil. One practical takeaway here is this: practice micro-intimacy. These are small, consistent acts of connection, saying, I appreciate you, sharing gratitude, checking in emotionally, listening without interrupting. Research from the Gottman Institute shows that the strength of a relationship is not built on grand romantic gestures, but on small, everyday moments of attunement, what they call bids for connection. When these bids are met with attention and care, trust deepens and depression recedes. So, what do you think about that? Do you notice how your mood changes when you feel genuinely connected to someone, or how quickly it drops when you feel ignored or unseen? Share your thoughts below. I love reading your reflections because this channel is a conversation, not a lecture. Let's move to the fifth insight: the cycle between loneliness, intimacy, and mental health. When we feel lonely or disconnected, our brains often enter self-protective mode. We start avoiding social interaction, assuming rejection, or withdrawing to avoid disappointment. But the cruel irony is that the more we withdraw, the lonelier we become, and the harder it feels to reconnect. That's why breaking the cycle begins with one courageous step. Reach out, even when you don't feel like it. Depression tells you to isolate, but healing happens in connection. Whether that's therapy, community, friendship, or rekindling closeness with a partner, every small moment of genuine connection helps rewire the brain for safety and hope. And here's something that's often misunderstood. Intimacy doesn't have to be romantic. You can experience deep, fulfilling intimacy through friendship, family, community, even creative collaboration. The essence of intimacy is being known and knowing someone in return. When you allow that mutual vulnerability, your nervous system gets the message, I'm not alone, I matter, I belong. If this resonates with you, hit that like button so more people can find it. Because we need to start talking more openly about how lack of intimacy isn't just a relationship issue, it's a mental health issue. Depression caused or worsened by disconnection is a silent epidemic. We live in a world more connected digitally than ever before, yet more emotionally starved than at any point in modern history. Real intimacy, slow, honest, eye-to-eye. Connection has become rare, but it's the very medicine our nervous systems crave. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that's me, know this, you're not broken, you're just lonely. And loneliness is curable. It starts with awareness, then with brave, small actions toward connection. Start with one question you can ask someone today that opens a real conversation. Start with one moment of kindness toward yourself. Start with one honest statement. I want to feel close again. Because depression isn't just sadness. It's the body saying, I've gone too long without safe connection. When we respond to that message with empathy instead of shame, healing begins. As you move through your relationships, romantic or otherwise, remember, intimacy is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's not about having all the right words, it's about being willing to stay in the moment when things get real. That's the art of emotional connection. That's the science of trust. That's the foundation of mental and relational health. And that's what we explore here every week on this channel. If you found value in this conversation, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to The Intimacy Doctor. Real talk, real science, real intimacy, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive into relationships, emotional intelligence, and mental well-being. In the next video, we'll explore why emotional safety, not passion, is the real secret to lasting attraction. So stay tuned and remember, the quality of your connection shapes the quality of your life. Be gentle with yourself, stay curious, and keep building real intimacy, one honest moment at a time.